everyone, and welcome to The X, a podcast from inside Silicon Valley about how experience shapes everything from products to businesses to entire industries. I'm Brian McLean, and I'm here with Demetrius Madrigal. Today, we have some super fun topics. They're not actually in the mainstream media, but I think they're really important to talk about. So let's just jump in and get started. Now, first off, D, good morning. I'm pretty sure you had a late night last night and
Oh
had the
yeah.
great pleasure, I heard, of eating at a Michelin-starred restaurant in San Francisco. So you and I have not talked about this, and I am super curious about what you thought.
So yes, we went to Acarello's, two Michelin star Italian restaurant, headed up by Suzette Gresham. You might have seen her on I think it was Top Chef. It was one of the Gordon Ramsay shows, and she showed up as a legend who was judging other people's cuisine. This is actually the restaurant that my girlfriend works at. She's chef de partie on the pasta station currently. One of the funny stories is we decided let's go to on a Wednesday, the week after St. Patrick's Day. It'll be slow. It's usually slow after drinking holidays and stuff like that. But what we did not count on or did not factor in was that GDC was happening this week for the first time in a couple of years.
That's the Game Developers Conference.
Yes, so it ended up being super packed, and tons of like gaming tech nerds were in there with their sneakers and hoodies and stuff like that. After I got like a very kind notice from the reservation system saying like, here's our dress code. So
Yeah, I was gonna say
we
I know that most of those Michelin-starred restaurants do have a, kind of dress a little bit nicer here. This is a very expensive experience to
Mhm.
have, but you said you saw all of our colleagues basically in there.
Yeah, yeah, if you work in tech you know the types. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun. It was a fantastic dinner. We got a few extra gifts from the kitchen just because of, we're friends and family there. It's still not cheap, but the food was amazing. I'll say I could send some pictures out to you, but there is a faux foie gras pasta,
Mm.
and I've heard a lot of people talk about it and things like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, fine. Like, how good could it be? And then I tried it, and I was like, what, what is this sorcery? How did you do this?
Was it awesome?
It was amazing. It was fantastic. I told my girlfriend, like, you have to make this at home. You have to, whenever we have guests over, you have to make this and show off.
When they
'Cause
say
this is
faux foie
ridiculous.
gras, does that mean that they are using like, I don't know, some like non-eggy product or something?
Well, foie gras is the duck, or it's a goose liver that's
Oh, the
kind of
liver.
fattened up
You know what I was
through
thinking
like a
at
force
first?
feeding process.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the liver. I was thinking it was like
Yeah,
a baby egg or something. That's something
no,
else, right?
no, it's a liver and it's fattened up. It's kind of controversial. It's actually real foie gras is now illegal in California, which is fine.
Hmm.
The actual foie gras process, as I've learned, it's actually not that bad for the geese. They'll actually ring a dinner bell if you look at videos of ducks of this happening for geese, and they'll come running. And it's something that geese normally do. They really fatten up before they go on their migratory journeys.
Hmm.
So that's how this was kind of discovered, was like, oh, if they slaughter a goose and eat its liver right before they start migrating, then it's extra tasty. But in this
I see.
case, because it's illegal in California, they're using like normal duck liver and stuff, but it's still like amazingly good. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. So, how does this compare to the last Michelin-starred restaurant that you ate at? Because I know that you tried out one other or two other.
I've been to a few, so want to say I haven't. I mean, I haven't been to any in a little while just because of the pandemic. But she previously worked at Madeira, which is at the Rosewood Hotel in Menlo Park, which everybody knows about if you're in the Valley. And that was very good. But one of the things that really stand out for me on that last trip was my girlfriend Christine worked there at the time, and she had just gotten the job at Acarello, so it was kind of her goodbye dinner. So they just sent us so much food. Like, we had like pretty much every single dessert that was on the menu. I think we had almost every item that was on the menu, and we were done, and it was late, and we had a butt ton of wine, and we're trying to walk to the car, and I'm just like, I'm so full that I'm just walking so slow. I don't think I've ever been that full before in my life, but they just stuffed us full of this amazing food. It was
That's
fantastic.
awesome. What a good experience, and you felt comfortable getting back out into the world a little bit more since the numbers here are so low for COVID and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, and we're triple vaccinated, and you have to actually show your vaccination card when you get there.
Oh, that's good.
Otherwise, they won't even seat you.
Okay.
So, and the numbers are low. There is a conference with some, I still kind of feel like, hey, let's play to the whistle. Let's just get this thing fully done so that we could be done with it and not keep like pushing it up because people don't want to be inconvenienced.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it was fine.
That's awesome. Well, transitioning from one experience to the next, let's talk about our topics of the day. So, I chose these topics this time, and because I wanted to pick some things that I felt were not in the mainstream media this week, so to speak, but super, super interesting. And I didn't want to like give you too much information, D, because I thought it'd be fun to get your initial reactions on some of these. This first one you and I discussed a little bit, but this is some crazy, interesting stuff. Okay. And I'm going to try to think about the positives and the negatives of this. Okay. Because I think it's easy to go to what could go wrong in this situation, but also maybe there's things that can go right. um, so the first one is something called Satoshi Island. Okay. So named after the quote unquote original founder of Bitcoin, who we don't really know who it is, anyways. And basically, what it is a bunch of investors got together and purchased a 32 million square foot private island sanctuary in the remote South Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, they're coining it as a place for the crypto community to call home. So what this is an entire island that is dedicated to people who just want to live and function off cryptocurrencies. Place where you may want to mine for crypto. Place where you may want to live and raise your children, but not be connected to any fiat currencies and only be using cryptocurrencies in order to survive. And basically a fully sustainable island where everything is run off of wind and solar and things like that. They'd be building this from the ground up. So the minute I heard about this, which it always makes me laugh because I actually am very excited to hear these crazy things. And the reason is because I feel like we're getting back to old tech. In the late 90s, early 90s, I mean, this is what it was all about. It was like hackers and cryptographers and everyone trying to use computers to figure things out, and the geeks kind of ran things. It was really interesting and stuff. So I kind of get a feeling of that when I hear about these things, although sometimes they can turn south quick.
Sure. It
Um,
reminds me of other things actually, but
I
we'll
I
go
know
ahead
we'll,
and
we'll,
keep
we'll talk
talking.
about it. We were laughing talking about it, but I wanted to remind you of something else that we talked about. You and I actually talked about on the podcast. I think early on, which was in 2013, there was a kind of a startup called Blue Seed, and it was funded by
Okay.
Peter Thiel. And a lot of people know Peter Thiel because he started PayPal, and he runs a fund where he funds a lot of kind of wacky ideas and stuff. And he was also a big supporter of Donald Trump, and that caused some issues. And it was just, anyways, you can look him up. But anyways, Blue Seed was this idea that you would create a startup community located on a vessel, meaning like a ship that was in international waters near the coast of Silicon Valley. And what its goal was is that because it wasn't actually on land like anywhere near California or anything like that, and was technically in international waters, that you would be able to have non-U.S. startup entrepreneurs work on there who didn't already have their visas. And so basically, you would take a helicopter or a boat and you would fly out to this vessel, and you can work there and you can do things out there and you can build your tech startups out there and potentially live on this vessel. And you wouldn't have to pay taxes and you wouldn't have to have a
Uh-huh.
visa and all this stuff. It was some zany, crazy idea that I thought, well, it only takes like one major swell in order to shake everybody up or someone kill somebody on that boat, right? So, anyways, this kind of reminded me of that. And I want to get your thoughts on it. I have details about the island, but what are your initial thoughts, Steve?
Well, I mean, I remember hearing about Blue Seed and just thinking like, no, thank you. Like, I uh, there's when somebody goes to extraordinary measures and spends an ungodly amount of money in order to set up a work environment that is not beholden to any laws, they're doing that for a reason.
Yeah.
It's like nobody spends a lot of money to get around laws for like completely wholesome purposes. And I understand that this was some kind of of a libertarian fever dream of like, oh, we don't need things like police and laws and things like that. But it's also like, you go ahead and you have that experiment without me and tell me how it went.
Yeah.
Um, and I looked at uh, I, I looked at the short video for this that they had up on
Yeah.
Twitter, and I
Yeah.
mean, my
Drop it on
immediate
Twitter,
thought,
D, so everybody can see it.
yeah, absolutely. My immediate thought was, now is this going to be more Lord of the Flies or New Jack City?
Yeah. So
Like, is this just going to be pure anarchy eventually? There's no, I mean, one of the reasons why they go into Vanuatu is because Vanuatu will say like, oh, you guys got a bunch of money and you want to be us to be hands off. That's fine. You can be hands off. We'll just pay your whatever you need to pay to our local government, and then we'll just make sure that you whatever is going on there doesn't spill over to the rest of the country.
yeah, and also those countries over there are kind of pro crypto. Like I was reading
Mm-hmm.
about them, and they're kind of excited about the opportunity of crypto being part of their, I don't know, currency and that kind of stuff. So they're experimenting more with it than other places. But basically, the investors that put this together, they basically created a DAO, which I know a
Yeah.
decentralized autonomous organization, and then they bought the island with it. They secured their building permits. They reached the milestone of 50,000 visas through an NFT. So basically, these are permanent residents. People who want to be permanent residents would buy one of these visas. They were like NFT visas in order to be on the island. And they secured about
Whoa, wait,
50,000
wait,
people.
hold on there. Let me dig into that what you just said a little bit. So, you're saying the way that you get a visa is you buy an NFT.
Yeah,
Is that accurate?
so that is correct. So they basically sold 50,000 visas that were transacted as NFTs to
Uh,
become permanent crypto residents.
okay. Yeah, there's fundamental social issues with the idea. I mean, the NFT aspect of it aside, I feel like there's fundamental social issues of like the only way to get a visa to any given area is by buying it. But we can save that for later.
Yeah, so here's the deal also too. So they're building homes on the island and they have an architect that they hired to do this, and they're building these homes that are very sustainable. So they're linking them all together with solar so that
Sure.
between batteries and all this kind of stuff. But interesting thing is that every home is an NFT or a Satoshi Island land NFT, which can be
Mm-hmm.
traded. So you can trade your NFT, basically trade your house. But for
Sure.
traditionalists, NFT holders can turn their digital rights into physical documentation on the official land registry of Vanuatu. Is it Vanuatu? Is that
Vanuatu.
yeah.
Vanuatu.
Okay, Vanuatu.
It's a beautiful place, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So you basically are like buying a house. The house is an NFT. You kind of own the rights to the house, but you can
Well,
have it all transferred into actual rights if you choose to do that.
so
So
yeah,
that's a
you
little
should.
confusing.
For anybody who's thinking about doing this, you should absolutely get it on the books with the land registry of Vanuatu, because for somebody to sell you an NFT that says, okay, you're the owner of this, but that doesn't get registered with the government, means you don't own anything. The government will come along and say you can show them your NFT, and they're like, yeah, that's not official. So yeah, enjoy your bits of code. But I thought one of the interesting things here. Okay, I'm going to respond to kind of the this. Number one, it's the home is not an NFT. The home is a home. It's a piece of land with
Yep.
a building on it that you live in.
Yep.
And the way in which they're building these homes is kind of interesting. Other than the fact that the concept they're shown has no no interest in privacy at any point. Like
Oh yeah, they're all glass.
they're all glass, so anybody can see anything they want at any time. But I'm sure that's just a concept, and that'll get figured out. But the idea of NFTs being associated with land deeds or other contracts is, and I think, an actual legitimate opportunity for NFTs to be implemented in a way that actually provides benefit, right?
For sure.
Because one of the issues now that thankfully we haven't run into as much as you would think we would is somebody can just take a contract or a deed and scan it into any kind of graphic editor of their choice and just change the terms of a contract. So if a registered NFT associated with a specific copy of the contract can lock in those terms so that if anybody changes it, you can say like, nope, that's a counterfeit and that has been altered. This is the original. We know it because it has this blockchain backed NFT kind of supporting that this is the one. So I thought that the land deeds as an NFT, or I shouldn't say as an NFT, the deed is a deed. It's a text file.
Hmm.
The NFT is the token validating that contract essentially.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So I think they're kind of pushing the limits here on not the limits, but the capabilities and the bounds of like how we typically assign deeds and stuff like that. So this
Mm-hmm.
could be an interesting kind of research exploration onto like how this stuff will work and how we might see this used in the future when buying and selling traditional homes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Their goal is to make this what's called the crypto capital of the world, and in order to do that, what they need is they need a lot of people living there, but they also need a lot of people using it for a remote office. So they want people to
Mm-hmm.
fly from all around the world and want to come work there. Like, oh, I'm going to bring my teams there that are focusing on blockchain and be around blockchain and kind of Web3 minded people who live here and live off of it and kind of experiment in real time with it. So they're doing a private opening actually of the island is for like last quarter of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Just for like short-term visits to check it out, and then by early 2023, so I'm guessing like Mayish or something like that, NFT homeowners will be able to begin residing on the island. So
Sure.
there's pictures of them doing all the building and getting it going and stuff. So one of the things that comes to mind when I think about this is some of the things that we brought up about Blue Seed that made us laugh and stuff like that, but are actually really serious, which is security and safety, right? Like
Yeah.
when you have an island that's owned by a DAO and it's not really connected to a government, it kind of is, but kind of not. And it's not run on fiat currency and all this stuff. What do? You just build a police force there and instill a law, that you feel is comfortable for all these international residents and things like that. You start from scratch, I guess, right? It's like starting over.
Well, I mean, there's so much. So this I can think of a way to kind of do this that would actually kind of make sense, but there are just so many questions. Like who is the security force? How did they get selected? How are they private? Are they government? Are if they are private, how are they being paid? Are they being paid in crypto? Did they have to go through like a visa process? Did they get if they're carrying weapons on an island of a bunch of people who might not whose ability to leave is limited
Yeah, we're
is
on an island.
yeah, I mean, what happens when people start saying like, "Oh, well, just you could stay a police officer, but you can work for me now, and I want the law to run how I want it to run." So it was very much like, yeah, this could easily slide into Lord of the Flies territory. It could easily slide into New Jack City, where the entire place is a criminal organization, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could just be Firefest of like, right, well, this sounds awesome. You want to have this kind of NFT purity or this crypto purity to it, but who's collecting your garbage? Who's mowing your lawns? Are they people who've paid a bunch of money to have a visa to be there, and everything they're
Yeah.
doing is also being done through cryptocurrencies? Like, what if they don't have the technical knowledge in order to manage a crypto wallet like or MetaMask or any of these things? Like, how are you going to staff this whole place?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I mean, it takes a long time for cities and states and things like that to get fully humming, right? If you look at
Mm-hmm.
new cities that have popped up, sometimes in the middle of the desert and things like that, based on technology changes, such as the middle of California in the Mojave Desert has grown a lot just because of rocket launches and things like that. With a lot of these different Blue Origin and that kind of stuff showing up and wanting to do
Mm-hmm.
rocket launch. It's like suddenly, oh, we got to scale up the amount of food we have. We've got to scale up the amount of police force we have. Like it's just a lot of work and a lot of thinking that goes behind all this stuff. I was trying to think of the positive and negative. I think the positives are kind of pushing the limits here and we're trying something new, right? This is
Sure.
interesting in that sense of like, well, what will happen? It's a big experiment. Maybe this will end up just being second homes for a bunch of people who want to be on a beautiful island and be around like-minded people that, love crypto and, like you said, are probably not interested in the government telling them what to do or whatever it is.
They're not interested in societal limits, so they can
Societal limits, yeah. So
they
I think
can
there's a lot
engage
to it.
in things like, I don't know, that might not be perfectly legal.
I'll tell you
Um,
something that probably could happen. I'll bet you the first 50,000 people that had gotten their visas and stuff, those people who have those visas and potentially have homes that they put a down payment on, the next round of excited individuals might pay them double what they paid for it in order to be able to grab one of those limited homes or visas from them, right? So you might see kind of a scaling up of cost over the next couple of years if it shows to be exciting. And then if it doesn't, then
yeah, I mean, I try not to lean too hard on resale value as a way of establishing the value of an experience of any kind. Like
yeah.
it's usually like what is the actual value of the experience, not the nominal value that is just being assigned. I mean, that's a factor for sure. Like we pay attention to it. That is a measure of value, but sometimes it's kind of out of hand, right?
Hmm.
There are some cars that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars who barely outperform like a $60,000 Lancer Evo.
Hmm.
So there's an element of that. Like, what is the actual value of this? But I look at this and I think to myself, this is something Disney essentially tried in the '60s. We talked about that. That was what Epcot was. We talked about that in a previous podcast. But it was supposed to be, the an experimental prototype community of tomorrow. That was what Epcot stood for. And he couldn't pull it off, and that was Walt Disney. And Walt Disney, like if you look into his history and his past and what he was able to do in his life, that guy was a full blown genius. He's one of the top thinkers in the past couple hundred years. Now, if I was working on this and I was like, oh, okay, well, here's the concept. How do we get there? One of the first things I would say is like, let's try to set up some kind of intermediate point. Let's do a resort to start. Let's just do an NFT based resort. You can buy little bits or a crypto based resort. Everything will be done through cryptocurrencies. You can buy some things that are NFTs. We'll have an actual like NFT showroom where people can put up like either digital or physical copies of their NFTs, either with displays or printouts or anything like that. And you can have it it'll be a real showroom. You can buy things, you can sell things, you can just look at stuff. You can be a museum where it educates, all kinds of stuff you can do with a resort experience and start working out some of these details and then transition ideally to something else. You can even do a festival, right? Although one of our friends looked at this and was like, "Oh yeah, that's Fire Fest. Waiting to happen."
Yeah, but the one
Very
thing
well
the
could
one
be.
thing I would say, D, is that I think you're right, like in the sense that you could take this down the middle and still be
Mhm.
successful at it, right? I think when you go to the far end of the spectrum of like, oh, we're buying an island in the middle of nowhere. Well, it's not really
Mhm.
nowhere, but it's really far away from probably most tech enthusiasts that would want to,
Well, I'm
be
curious
part
to
of it.
see how close or far away this island is relative to the rest of Vanuatu, because Vanuatu is an archipelago. It's a collection of islands.
It's pretty
So,
close. It's not too far. I was looking at the map on there, and it's
yeah.
surrounded by a whole bunch of other islands and stuff, but it's still very far away from San Francisco,
I
right?
mean,
You know what I
how
mean?
far how far away is it from the capital of Vanuatu? Which
That
I
I
don't
don't know.
even
I don't know.
what is the capital of Vanuatu? Port Vila is the largest city. So that's I think an interesting question. Like, how easy is it from like just logistics, right? Getting people and materials back and forth to this island. Is it remote relative to the rest of Vanuatu? We know that it's pretty remote relative to a lot of other countries that we're familiar with. It's not terribly far from Australia or
Mm-mm.
New Zealand, but it's not. Most people would really struggle to tell you anything about Vanuatu, know where it is in the world, or point it out on a map.
Yeah, and actually, I think it did say on there something about direct flights. So, like being able
Mhm.
to get a direct flight from here or a direct flight from Australia or something like that, to this location. The thing, the idea of building like a city from the ground up. That's actually kind of cool in the sense that you can actually do everything, sustainable and like, rethink everything from the beginning. It always is just a slight red flag when they want to go really far away from
Yeah.
any government body. Like then I'm kind of like, okay, now it gets a little creepy. But other
Yeah.
than that, I wish them the best, and I'm going to track this for sure and watch it. It's very, very interesting to me, and it's like
Yeah.
I said, tech exciting in sense that people are pushing the limits.
Well, it is interesting to that extent. I'm hoping that it probably won't happen, but I do hope that they can find some way to have some kind of diversity within the community, not just from a ideological or racial or ethnic makeup, but just from a like an economic class aspect of things. Because one of the things that it sounds like is you're just going to get a lot of very wealthy people together into an echo chamber, and they're very quickly going to lose touch with what is going on in the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Well, hey, let's talk about the next topic, which is also crypto related, and I found to be super interesting for many reasons. Is the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which, if you're not familiar with that, these are those little NFTs that celebrities like, I don't know, Jimmy Fallon and others and stuff have been purchasing. They're worth a lot of money now. I think the cheapest one is like $300,000. Raised big money and also dropped a gift on existing holders and all kinds of stuff. So basically, what happened was on Tuesday, the creators behind the Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT collection, which is called Yuga Labs, announced a new valuation of $4 billion after raising $450 million to create a metaverse. And so, when I heard the word metaverse, I think, a game, a new experience, right? Um, the Bored Ape Yacht Club became famous, if you're not familiar, for their NFT collection of about 10,000 apes designed to be used as profile pictures. And in April of 2021, they were selling for about $200 a piece. And the cheapest one, like I said, now is about $300,000. It's basically a status symbol for many celebrities and very wealthy individuals. It's like one of the articles I read said it's kind of like wearing a Rolex in the digital world. It's just like showing off kind of your wealth. But what they actually did is they raised a bunch of money. They want to create their own metaverse. They dropped a trailer for it, which I thought it looked pretty funny and cool and interesting. And I'm definitely gonna keep track of it. I think it's funny to see like an ape wearing like yacht clothing, like smoking a cigar and stuff. I don't know. The whole thing I find to be pretty humorous. But they recently launched ApeCoin, their own coin, and they gifted some to current owners of the NFTs. And they gifted basically each person about $118,000 worth of the coin. And it now has a market cap of $11 billion. Um, a lot happening with them. They also purchased CryptoPunks.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of own those NFTs now as well. They're partnering with game studios to build their metaverse, which is called the other side's world, I think it is actually, or other side, people have been calling it. And they've said that this is like a metaverse that will make all other metaverses obsolete, which everyone says that. Rumor has it though that they're going to basically open up that metaverse to major NFT ownership. So, buying land, buying clothes, buying everything that you can, and basically kind of owning it kind of like you would in the real world, but in the digital world. And Demetrius will drop that YouTube link of the new Bored Ape Yacht Club metaverse trailer in Twitter, so you guys can check it out. So, what do you think about all this stuff, D? I mean, this is taking hold, man. Like a lot of money flowing in
It's
this area now.
it. I mean, yeah, a lot of people are getting into metaverse. I mean, we've mentioned this over and over again. Metaverse is not a new concept. If you played an MMO, if you've been on like even like Animal Crossing, that's basically metaverse, right? It's anywhere where a bunch of people come together into any kind of virtual space and have a social experience or something that's relatively persistent. So now it is essentially attracted a lot of attention from a lot of investors who don't really understand gaming, for example. So this is kind of like a what you might experience on World of Warcraft minus all of the Warcraft. So just like interacting with people in like a new environment.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of this to me seems very arbitrary, right? Like I assume the investment they got. and therefore their valuation is coming from a bunch of VCs and investors. I'm trying to find out who they are.
Andreessen Horowitz.
Andreessen Horowitz is a big one.
Yeah.
Did they name the rest of them?
No, I don't have the full. I don't have the full list of all their investors, but what I will say is that their idea about like blowing up this brand and doing more things with it, I think is really smart. So like the metaverse, the gaming, partnering with gaming companies, more NFTs, like they're capturing this whole like digital kind of experience that statistically shows that younger people are super excited about, and it seems to be becoming a very popular brand. Like this is like the new brand, the hip brand to be part of.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find out more. I don't know a ton about Yuga Labs. I don't know what their capabilities are for developing experiences like this.
Uh huh.
Um, do we know where they're based? Anyway, so I don't I don't want to be too judgmental. I'm not a big fan of Board Ape Yacht Club. I feel like they're trading heavily on hype, and it's hype in such a way that it's actually kind of made it more difficult for NFTs to take hold in any kind of mainstream thing. Like you see all of the NFT backlash and how Ubisoft got slammed with it, and EA got slammed with it. Gamers don't care. They don't care about. They're not there to make money. They're there to get value by spending money on experiences that they think are worth it. So like the idea that like, oh, you can buy this NFT within this game environment and you can sell money off it. And like, that's not what I'm here for. I don't want to think about for a lot of people outside of like the investor and like a crypto enthusiast community, like thinking about finances is work. It's not fun. It's like
Hmm.
something I do because I have to, not because I want to. And the point of getting money for a lot of people is to spend it in order to get experiences such as gaming experiences or metaverse experiences so they can experience value from it, not to necessarily to put money in and get something out of it in the future.
Well, I mean, are
Um,
you talking about like kind of existing gamers that are closer to like our age, maybe a little bit younger, or are you looking at like the super young gamers? Because I'm hearing from just things that I read that the super young gamers and metaverse experience players are doing exactly. They love exactly what you said, which is like they want to have a great experience and all that kind of stuff. But they
mhm.
also are interested in making money if they can. So if they can be a creator and they can support a community and then also make money and not have to do other jobs and stuff like that, that they're showing a lot of interest in that space.
Yeah, some of them are interested in being creators. I think that there are certain platforms specifically for that, like
Yeah.
YouTube in particular stands out, or Twitch, and that is the meta to some extent for people who are younger. Is like that my career path is to become Twitch famous,
Yeah.
which, as we know, that through the nature of celebrity, there can only be so many. So you're gonna have to compete and try to become one of those, and many of them aren't. And same thing happens when it comes to actors and musicians and creators throughout history. Most people who uh, engage in any profession that is fun to do is going to end up doing it for little money because it is fun. So they're getting value. You think about the value that you put into it. Part of it goes to the fun factor, and that detracts away from the money factor to some extent.
Oh yeah.
That's
I mean,
why
if you look at the
people make so much money
number,
as dentists.
yeah, same thing as like the app craze, right? When we went through that
Mm-hmm.
period in 2000, I don't know, like 8 to 15 or whatever it is, when everyone had to be an app creator. I mean, there was like a billion apps, like with a B,
Yeah,
and there was about 30 that were making like a ton of money, right? But we hear
yeah.
about the ones that are making a ton of money, or we see the ones that are really great because we're more exposed to it on a regular basis. But it is true though, like if you actually look and at some of the not statistics, but some of the data about like what younger people think are going to be like career choices and paths, a lot of them do believe that creativity and the creative
Mm-hmm.
area is going to grow a lot more. And that just not just being your own like, producer of music or
Yeah,
videos and things, but actually supporting a lot of the people who are doing that,
sure.
becoming a podcast editor, becoming a video and YouTube editor and that kind of stuff as
Yeah.
like career paths.
But the reality is, there are a ton of people who are doing that now and very successful, and it has nothing to do with NFTs.
Yeah.
So NFTs are a little weird. It feels as though we're in this weird place in society where the technology itself, for some reason, gets a ton of attention.
Hmm.
Where in the old days, it wasn't like, oh, hey, this come to this platform and experience some JS node. We've got
Yeah.
some amazing JavaScript for you. Like it's like this is new. It's like, oh, hey, JSON and OAuth and all these kinds of things that make these are the underlying technologies that make things possible,
Hmm.
but they're not the creations. They're not the creative thought themselves. They still have to figure out ways to do the implementation in order to provide value and provide a good experience. And I feel like Bored Ape Yacht Club and a lot of the other collections out there have just been kind of hyping the technology itself with all these promises that it's like this almost free money for artists, and we all know that that's not really how it works.
Yeah. Well, I think that they're hyping the tech. To be honest, it seems like they're hyping the tech like any other generation of hyping tech. Meaning, like you're excited, they're excited about what they're building. People are buying it. They're loving it. You know what I mean? These NFT drops and things. People are enjoying them. What bums me out about it is that not everyone can be part of it. It's not that I don't think it's great that they're coming out with all kinds of cool things that people want to buy and are excited about, but I think that everyone should have some sort of exposure to it if they want to. And it's like, even if you go to OpenSea and you start looking around, I mean, you have to literally do a search for how much money you have in order to find something that you could buy. And I actually did this.
Yeah,
I went on because I wanted to buy an NFT and do the whole experience, which was rough. But I went through it and it was funny. I actually did a search because a couple of the ones that I was looking at, I was like, oh, this one's really cool. But it was like 7 ETH, right? That's
yeah.
$21,000, right? You know what I
Which
mean? To
I
make,
mean, yeah, you need like a week or two of research to even get to that point of knowledge. Like the barrier to entry for mainstream users is just the reality is this will not maintain value and continue to be a thing if the mainstream doesn't turn the corner at some point. Otherwise, it's just going to be another fad that passes in like 3D printing or drones.
yeah, it's interesting. You and I were talking to somebody who's really dialed into this stuff many years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
he did say to us that it wouldn't kind of connect with mainstream until about 2023, 2024, meaning that the technology just wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't moving there fast enough yet. We didn't have enough connectors in order to smooth out the experience. But once that UI layer comes in, and it's really easy for people to just go on a website, click on something, click I want it, I own it, boom, it's done. Now it's like you have to set up a MetaMask account, you have to have a Coinbase account, you have to have this and that and everything, and you got to understand how it works. And there's big long
So is
numbers,
he?
and it's
Let me
just
ask you a
complicated.
question then. Is he making that prediction based on just the technical capabilities and ironing out like interface elements?
Yeah. So what he was saying,
Okay.
is that like if you look at the way the interface elements are set up, there's too many touch points for one
Yeah.
thing to connect to the other.
I mean the interface, honestly, I mean, it can get figured out within 6 months or something, right? You can do all those things if the will is there in order to get the interface working. But the thing that and I think a lot about, because I think NFTs have a future. I
Hmm.
think they're more interesting than cryptocurrencies. They can do things that cryptocurrencies can't. I think that, and one of the things that bugs me about Bored Ape Yacht Club and some of these other things, and the way that they're hyping things up, and they're issuing these this coin and then arbitrarily saying this is kind of how much it's worth, and then people saying like, oh, that's how much it's worth, so I'm going to sell it for that much, and the value becomes a matter of social agreement rather than inherent value to the to the
Mm,
to the asset.
yep.
But it makes, for me, trying to think about like how to kind of provide NFT implementations that actually provide value to people aside from resale value, them doing this makes that harder. And you can see it in the reaction that non-crypto enthusiasts have to NFTs, that it's a scam, that it's bullshit, that it's a pyramid scheme. And it just makes things more difficult because now you have to try to overcome this and say like, I'm not going to argue with some of these things. Like, you tell me that this JPEG of an ape is worth $500,000, and like, who isn't going to think that that's bullshit? Especially when you can just right click it. This is one of the things about Bored Ape Yacht Club is that, for me, my measuring stick, right, is whenever it gets posted on Twitter or anybody else, I can just right click it and own it, right? I can just have that.
Hmm.
If it, people do that for movies and do that, people pirate movies and they pirate songs and they pirate all kinds of things. I don't think anybody's pirating this. And why not? They can get it for free, and other people decide it's $500,000. If you can have a $500,000 piece of art for free, and you're not, it's because it's not worth $500,000.
Yeah, but is this kind of come back to the argument that they say, well, yeah, you can also walk into the Louvre and take a picture of the Mona Lisa and then print it out at home and have it on your wall.
And a
But
million
it's
people do that.
Yeah, and a million people do that, and everyone does that every day. And the difference is that in the art world, for example, is that being able to say, I actually own that art. I actually own the physical art. It's on my wall at home. You take pictures of it, but I actually own the original. That it still
Yeah,
holds value, and a lot of them still really do hold value, and they have for hundreds of years, right?
yeah. I mean, people, and I had this debate with like somebody said, how valuable is the Mona Lisa, and it actually it doesn't have any value at all. And in some interpretations, right, it
Hmm.
is priceless in the sense that you kind of apply a value to it. But it was just sitting there, and people are just looking at it. It doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't take out your garbage. It doesn't It doesn't wash your dishes.
Yeah,
It's there, but there is still people out there who are creating fake versions of it. You can buy prints of it. People, when they go to the Louvre, tons of people take photos or try to take photos, and they have to do all this kind of work in order to ensure that it doesn't get hit with flashes from people's cameras, because it's going to damage the art over time.
uh huh,
That is something where you can see in the behavior set that people are going out there and they're doing this stuff. But when it comes to like a $500,000 JPEG on Twitter, I've never thought to myself like, oh, I'm going to get a copy of that. I'm going to get a free copy of that. I'm going to pirate that, even though it's the easiest pirating process ever. I'm just going to put it out and put it on my wall. If someone tried to hand me one of these things for free, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm not interested. It's only because somebody else says, look at this thing, it's worth X amount of money, that people are saying it wasn't. If you did a blind test, if nobody had known anything about this, and you took a collection of like 50 people who don't know anything about this, and you showed them these things and said, do you want these for $20? I bet that if without the marketing behind it, nobody would say, no, I'll pay $20 for that.
100%. I mean, people are looking at this as a land grab right now to try to make
Mm-hmm.
money in many cases.
Yeah.
I look at some of these and I'm like, oh, these are really cool pictures. Meaning, like the person who drew them,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not a computer, but the person who drew them, I think they're really cool. Just kind of like when you walk around, you go to like this Disney store and you see like those hand drawn pictures of Mickey Mouse and things like that, or they'll draw them in
Yeah.
front of you, right? It's like you're kind of like sucked in and impressed by the beauty of the actual like character and that kind of stuff. And I think people are kind of sucked in a little bit, but I think mostly they think this is my chance to pay off my house because I'm going to buy this thing and then I'm going to
Yeah.
sell it in a year.
It's just so much hype, and and it's not even like, even if it was like a really amazing photograph of El Capitan or Cloud's Rest or Old Faithful or Niagara Falls, like, or somebody's actual artwork that they did. That at least to some extent was like, at least you're getting an amazing piece of art, right? It's an NFT. It has value because it's an amazing piece of art. For a lot of this stuff, it's people just pumping out, and a lot of them are algorithms. They're just pumping out stuff so they can sell it, and then they barely even care about the image. Is just them getting access to this token, which, in a sense, the token is limited, but there's an unlimited amount of limited tokens, so there's not a limit to how many NFTs can exist.
Well, a lot of people that I read about, they also, when they make their sales, right? So they put up, they spend a couple hours, they do some drawings, they put them up. Let's say they sell for, $3,000 or $4,000, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They immediately convert the ETH to US dollar.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Even though the ETH tends to go up over time, it's been steadily going up over time. They move it into US dollar because they're trying to, make a living off of it, right? You're
yeah,
drawing things and selling them. But no, I hear what you're saying, and I think I agree to some extent. Like, there's a part of me that also is just kind of like, this is kind of like just an evolution of the kind of like online experience. It will die out a little bit, and then some of the stuff that is really popular probably will stay around, and they'll build experiences
yeah.
around it, like the gaming and all that kind of stuff. But you know we'll see. I'll definitely try out the metaverse that they're building. I'll log in and check it
Yeah,
out and see what it's all about, and I'll report back for sure. And on this podcast, step by step, if you guys want it.
yeah.
But I
Well,
don't
it
know.
is kind of like I look at a lot of the things they're touting, and like I've been in this game for a long time, and somebody raising $450 million. Okay, that's nice. Um, that means that some investors who maybe bought in the hype see that it has potential. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to succeed.
Nope.
I mean, keep in mind that I think that Yik Yak was $1 billion company at one point,
It's true.
uh, or valued that. That's all very. It's all very perceptual. It's all very kind of arbitrary. Same thing with the value of their coin. It's very arbitrary. It's what some subset of society has decided that this is worth. It's not really a result of any objective measure. But at the
Yeah.
same time, hoping what will come out of all of this is some kind of metaversal or other type of experience that can actually have value to the rest of society. But
Yeah.
a lot of this noise, I think, is just making that harder.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's talk about the last topic of the day, for the last 10-15 minutes or so. Um, so Google is testing the use of smartphone sensors such as cameras and microphones to detect disease early. And
Mm-hmm.
US News and World Report basically it said announced on Thursday that Google has been testing whether capturing heart sounds and eyeball images can help people identify problems such as heart conditions and diabetes. Google said that it has early promising results using tabletop cameras in clinics, but is also examining whether or not they can just use smartphone photos or the actual cameras itself on the smartphone to do this. I know that they've been exploring in this area for a long time. We have heard about it ever since the smartphone basically came out. But this
Mm-hmm.
really is the next step forward of moving the diagnostic portion of healthcare to the home and moving the treatment to the doctor's office. This is something that I actually am really interested in. And the reason is because there's many times where I have gone to the doctor to be told, like, yep, you have the flu or whatever it is, right? And what is actually happening is I'm basically exposing, I wear a mask, but like you're technically exposing everybody that you come in contact with from your house all the way to the doctor's office because you can't get diagnosed with what it is. You have to go
Mm-hmm.
get diagnosed and treated, right? And so there was a device that came out that I have that I really love for COVID, called the Q Health, and basically it's a PCR testing machine that's about the size of a pack of cigarettes or something, for a better thing to compare it to. And it connects to your smartphone and it has a swab. You put the swab in your nose, you stick it in the machine, takes 20 minutes, tells you whether or not you have COVID. Well, they're
Mm-hmm.
expanding, for example, to influenza and all these other things so that it can automatically send those results to your doctor. And then you could do a video call with your doctor and decide if they need you to come in or not. Well,
Mm-hmm.
this is like next level. Google being able to figure out how to take your phone, put it up to your chest, basically, and have it listen to your heart for a little bit and tell you if you should see your doctor regarding a heart condition, or putting it up to your eyes, scanning your eyes and determining whether or not you're, have issues with diabetes. What are your thoughts on this kind of like shifting market change where it's like diagnosing at home, treating, or further diagnosis in the office?
Well, I think it's kind of a necessary thing. We're at the point in American society where access to healthcare is just insufficient. It hasn't kept up with the population growth. Just there are some people who will point fingers and say that this is intentional in order to keep salaries high, and it's why there aren't more accredited institutions, and why the FDA requirements for development have remained so murky. At the end of the day, there's not enough healthcare to go around. There's a supply issue, and this is something that we kind of need to address by making it more available. We were working on this. I'm sure you remember somebody using a company we were working with was thinking about using kind of the sensors within a phone or other device or an add-on to a phone that could like track somebody's heart rhythms and identify if there was any irregularities, and then tell them to go to the doctor and stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. And I've actually tried some of the free ones. They have ones that you can
mhm,
download where you put your thumb right over the
mhm.
light or whatever it is, and it tells you whether or not you have AFib.
Yeah, some. I think my version of my smartphone, which I haven't upgraded yet because I'm too married to my 3.5 millimeter audio port for my headphones. it has a heart sensor on it, so every now and then I will be like, oh, well, let's check what my heart rate is. Maybe after like I move a bunch of furniture or boxes or anything like that, or even just my resting heart rate.
Yeah.
The technology exists.
Yeah.
There's technology out there that you can use like an interstitial needle that doesn't you can't feel, and you can put that on a ring or a bracelet or something, and that can continuously monitor your blood sugar for people with diabetes. A lot of the technology is out there; it exists, and the there are certain like FDA regulations or pharma coming in and kind of opposing it, but there are weird factors that have kind of kept this from making it to the market. We were working on this stuff like over 10 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah, it was very, very early. I recently saw on Instagram actually was a post for that exact thing you're talking about. You buy the kit,
Hmm.
you stick the needle, the interstitial needle in your arm. You can't even feel it. You leave it on all day. It tracks you, and it says it's for like athletes and stuff to look at their sugar levels and all that kind of stuff, and it just drops everything right into your smartphone.
Yeah.
There's something else I actually saw too was that there's these companies popping up where they do full body scans. So you
Hmm.
pay to go in, and they'll do two things. One is full body MRIs, which is right now you think of that and you go like, well, they already offer MRIs. No, these are like done like really quickly, and they're open. They're not like completely closed, and they're using like these new machines, and they scan from head to toe. And then they take each component of your body, whether it be like, let's say your liver, your legs, and they send them off to specialists. Specialists take a look, see if there's anything that catches their attention or anything like that. And then the data is all sent back, and you basically have a full body analysis.
Hmm.
In addition to services now where you can go in and they will do scans of um, ultrasounds of your neck and your everywhere where your blood flows. And then if they notice anything that looks off or anything, they automatically send it to your doctor, and then you can schedule further appointments. They're basically like taking the diagnostic portion that you would get at your hospital and saying, if you want to pay for it on your own for a super reasonable price, you can have it done, and then we'll just send that information over to your doctor. You don't have to go to them and get a prescription to go get this thing anymore. Like you can go get a pre-diagnosis of a potential disease without having to talk to your doctor first.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. I think that can kind of also create a lot of anxiety and things like that among people. But you know, hopefully we get to a point where if you feel like something needs to be checked, it can get checked, whether you're seeing your doctor or you're going to a clinic that basically just specializes in diagnostics.
Yeah, it's there are these things that we can definitely provide, and we've known even during the pandemic, right? The smartphone became a powerful diagnostic tool. Like even for like my pets, if something came up, the vet would ask me, "Can you get a video of him doing the symptoms so that I can see what it is?" Because
Yeah.
it doesn't always happen when you bring them in and they can't talk to you. And there's been other things where people are putting like devices in like their elderly parents' homes so they can track what's going on.
Yep.
But there's just this thing going on within the medical industry from a economic standpoint where because of the nature of medicine and medical care in general being because of the unique demand elasticity that people will pay whatever it costs for the thing that keeps them alive. Why would you reduce the cost of insulin when people will pay the price that you're charging no matter what?
Well,
So
because it's the right thing to do.
yeah, yeah, that's
At
that's
the end of
part
the
of the issue,
day,
right?
it's the right thing to do. I mean,
That
no matter what
yeah,
happens when it's extremely unfortunate. I've been in some scary situations myself, and I can tell you right now, you don't care about anything else. When you or
mm-hmm,
a family member is ill, all you care about is them getting treatment. And the same thing with the doctors when you're talking to them. They don't even know how much it's billed half the time. They just want to do
yeah,
what they need to do to take care of you. You're the one that's running this. And I'll tell you one little anecdote, and then we can wrap up here, D. But like a friend of mine, I'll say, made a comment. I had mentioned something about my ankle hurting, and they said something like, "How was it phrased?" It was like, "Oh, I'm sure with your deductible, you could probably just run in and have it checked or whatever it is." And I was like, oh, yeah, totally, but I'll ice it for a while, whatever. And I was driving home and I was thinking about it. And I was like, wow, the first thing that came to your mind was probably won't be that expensive to have your foot looked at that hurts. And it's
Yeah.
like, how can the first thing that comes to your mind when you're not feeling well or something hurts is, can I afford it? Right? It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of circle back to what we're talking about, these devices, any kind of personal electronic devices that you're already spending a lot of money on, that has enough computing power to get a vehicle to the moon and back in 1968.
Hmm. Hmm.
Of course, we should be using these as diagnostic tools. Of course, we should be doing that. But like, there are implementation concerns. We don't want to panic people. We want to make sure they can remain private, maintain privacy, all of those things. But absolutely, we should. This is just imperative for the well-being of society in order to do this. And one of the only reasons why it hasn't happened 10 years ago is because there are economic realities of that. There are people who are profiting off of the system that currently exists, and they don't want that to be disrupted in any way.
Yeah.
That said, these are things like the whole health system, or medical industry, as I prefer to call it, because it's not really a health system. The only way that, single payer will help. Any other payment way to pay for it, arrange payment, and insurance system will help. But the only way to really fix this is to get in at the bottom level. We need to rethink IP when it comes to medical devices and medical technology. We need to heavily subsidize medical professionals when we have shortages of doctors and nurses. Like, if we're going to make any kind of education free, it should be that, because it helps all of us.
Absolutely.
Um, and that's just something we need to do. We need to look at how accreditation happens. We need to open that up. We need to kind of like address the medical issue from a supply standpoint, and we need to flood the market with medical supply. It
Yeah.
should be so easy. We should never ever think about like, oh, I'm not going to get this lump somewhere in my body checked out because of the cost associated. That should never be an issue. It's just going to make everything more expensive for everybody else, because now, instead of a minor procedure, it could turn into a major multi-year care requirement that's going to eat up resources that could go to other people,
Hmm.
and also improve the life and the livelihood of that person.
Absolutely. Well, very well said, man. And we'll circle back on this, I'm sure again. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us today. We really appreciate it. We'll be posting links to many of the resources we referenced on Twitter. So you can find us and follow us at Twitter at the X Podcast One. That's the X Podcast and the number one. If you like this podcast, found it interesting or informative, it helps us a great deal if you subscribe or leave a review on whatever platform you use. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you all next week.